Well, on that note, I think we're going to try something different today, which maybe will become hopefully a long-running segment in the show. So, on our book tour and sometimes in our DMs, we get quite interesting questions from listeners, sometimes about sources or approaches to history. Or the other day, someone approached us actually at the Taylor Mac concert to ask us how best to get an agent or a book published, things like that. But also quite often about personal issues for some reason, which I take as a compliment. So on that note, we're going to start a advice column on Extra Bad Gays as your sort of resident Gaggony Guncles, perhaps.
Disqualifies us to tell anyone anything ever again.
And
While he was here in Berlin, we were both talking about the different kinds of writing that we do or would want to do. And, writers get together and we talk about where we want to write and where we would like to pitch things and what kinds of work we like to be doing more of. And both of us said we'd really want an advice column. And then we just kind of looked at each other and said, well, we can just do it. Like we can make our own advice podcast.
so on our social media the other day, we asked if anyone had any questions they would like answers to fire us an email. And if you want to do that as well for a future episode, our email is emailbadgays@gmail.com. But in the meantime, we did get a large handful of questions that I think we're going to run through today.
We are. And thank you so much for sending them. And please do keep sending them. We take questions from everybody, but we do prioritize questions, of course, from our extra subscribers. And we'll be dropping some excerpts of our answers in the main feed, but the full Agony Uncles or Gaggony Guncles segments, as with the rest of the Extra Bad Gays podcast, is only for you, dear subscribers. Today and some other days, we will make the whole extra show a kind of advice format if this really works out well. And then most months, we'll try to get to at least one or two questions from folks just as a regular segment to keep the show fresh and to keep it a conversation with all of you. So, should we get started?
Yeah, I do think we should add a caveat, or I'm going to add a caveat for myself, which is please don't follow any advice I'm going to give. I can't think of a worse person to ask advice from, but people do ask.
Oh, I don't know, Hugh. I think there are many people could ask advice of. So people could ask advice of George Santos, Hugh. People could ask advice of Milo Yiannopoulos.
That's true.
Someone somewhere is currently asking for advice from Ann Coulter. Like, really, there are definitely worse people than us. We're not the best Guncles, but we're not the worst. So, should we start?
Let's go for it.
All right. This first question is about dating. So, I want to meet more people for casual and long term sex, and I'm also open to dating. I spent a chunk of my 20s single and having one night stands when I was really drunk. I've struggled with really low self esteem and not believing that I'm desirable or capable of being loved. Things are slowly changing. I'm more open, willing to be vulnerable, and at times feel hot. But things are moving so slowly. I fuck sometimes and barely date, and I feel like I'm missing out. And I'm on various apps, go to gay clubs and nights, and I'm generally outgoing and sociable. Other than therapy, how can I meet more people to fuck and or date?
This feels like a sort of perennial gay problem, which is a combination of weighing up like what you actually want, what you feel you're expected to want, especially like as I feel this way as a gay man, and then finding it in a way that doesn't actually make you feel worse in the process. Like finding that sort of casual sex. We don't live in where you can go down to the piers or whatever in New York and cruise. And actually, having said that, most people in the 1970s couldn't do that either. But I think there's like a sort of strange mixture here of, yeah, like these expectations that we have for ourselves that other people have for us, plus this sort of gap between the way we think sex, or told even that sex is on hand and accessible now, and the fact that it really isn't on hand, right? So like my first piece of advice I think in this situation would be go easy on yourself with regards to your feelings around not being able to have sex as much as you want, or the type of sex that you want to have, because I think down that road you're going to meet like a lot of frustration, and it's going to make you feel worse in the short and the long term. And instead, I think it's about like opening yourself up to those sexual opportunities without sort of guilt. So I think that's what I'm talking about when you mention the idea of things changing slowly, opening up, becoming more vulnerable, and of course, allowing yourself to feel hot, to feel desired is like a really important part of it, but is not to necessarily to like to rush yourself through the expectation that you should be having more. The question really is, how do you find those people, which is a whole other universe. But I do think the solution that you're going for, which is a combination of looking online on apps for hookups and being aware that, like, even in the most casual hookup, you can actually end up having something more, like a more meaningful relationship if you want. Sometimes that's where those things emerge from. And mixing that with in person things like gay clubs and being sociable, it's just simply like a matter of taking the opportunities, but also giving yourself the time and space to allow for those things.
I'm going to both disagree and agree a little bit. First of all, Hugh, some of us do live in the 1970s. It's called Berlin. But the reason why I bring that up is not to brag, it's to say that even in that situation, I don't know any gay guys who are actually happy with their relationship with sex and dating. Just like I don't think I know any gay guys who actually know what they look like, right? Um, there is no magical world of perfectly actualized, happy, emotionally and physically healthy adult gay sluttiness that exists somewhere just outside of your grasp that you can see but you can't get to. All of that, all of what you see, all of what you think you're experiencing is people who are themselves grappling with low self-esteem, who are grappling with feeling vulnerable, who are grappling with feeling struggling with the idea of combining that kind of sexual engagement with a long-term relationship. Some of whom are grappling with substance issues. Like there's so much going on in these worlds, and no one is existing in them in some kind of magical perfect harmony. One of the big issues, I think, is that the apps on which we see the people doing this are either Instagram, which is designed to keep us on it by making us look at pictures of our friends instead of actually engaging with our friends in real life, or the hookup apps like Grindr, which are also not designed to actually construct a healthy sex life for you, right? Like if you have in your life people around you in whatever configuration who are keeping you in a place of emotional and sexual satisfaction instead of a mutual wonderful community, then you're on Grindr less, right? Grindr doesn't want to get you laid. Grindr wants to get you on Grindr and to keep you on Grindr for as long as possible. And so it's important to think about how these apps are making you think about other people, and the apps would rather have you construct a world where all of this is happening somewhere else. So you sit and keep using the apps and dream about this world that doesn't exist instead of engaging with the world as it does. And I think you already are doing so many of the right things. The fact that you're like on these apps, even though they're imperfect and even though they're like not designed to actually be satisfying, it's probably good. The fact that you're actually going out into the real world and that you live in a place where you can do that is great. And I would just say to keep doing that as much as possible. And my final piece of advice is to, when you're in these places and when you're looking to date and when you're looking to get laid, be really nice also to the people that you don't want to fuck. A, because it makes the places much nicer for everyone, and B, because those people also have friends and they will not introduce you to their friends if they think you're a dick.
I think you hit on a really good point there, which is the letter writer here seems to be ready. You know, like they're ready. They're open for love. They're open for casual sex. They're open for what the universe is going to give them. They're feeling better about themselves and their body. They've got higher self-esteem. They're ready. And then sometimes when you're ready, you go into the world expecting to find the other people who are ready. And unfortunately, you find people who are in other places who haven't, who are still grappling with their self-esteem, or, you know, aren't ready to have that encounter that you're looking for. And it can be very easy for us when we're in that situation to think, maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. To assume that everyone else is operating in this sort of perfect high frequency. And actually, there's nothing you need to change about yourself. It's just a matter of remaining ready, remaining open to the world, open to possibilities, open to love. And at some point, you will start to encounter those other people because you're being kind, and like you're saying, and you're being generous, and you're giving yourself to the world. That when that person comes along, they will see that, and the dating will happen, or the casual sex will happen, or whichever it is you're looking for.
Right. And while you're waiting for maybe something more serious to happen, you'll be having fun. Like you'll be having a good time while you're waiting for that to show up. What I'm really glad to hear for you, caller or writer, whoever you are, is that you're no longer feeling like you need to get unbelievably drunk in order to have sex. That is such a good sign that you don't want to do that. Like needing to be unbelievably drunk or blitzed or anything else in order to have sex is a really big warning indicator. And I'm really, really glad for you that you've worked through that and you've worked away from that. And I hope you continue to. And yeah, it really sounds like you're ready and you're in a great place and you need to keep doing what you've been doing. And I think if you do, I mean, as much as we can predict anything, right, in this crazy and terrible world, but I think you're doing all of the right things for the conditions of possibility for a really satisfying sexual and romantic life to emerge.